Essays on Untouchables and Untouchability, Political by Babasaheb Ambedkar. Chapter 3, Held at Bay. 1. Hindu Reaction to the Revolt of the Untouchables. The story of the revolt of the Untouchables tells how the old is ringing out and the new is ringing in. What is the reaction of the Hindus to this revolt? No one who knows anything about it can have any hesitation in answering this question, for it is clear that his attitude is one of opposition. It might be difficult to understand why the Hindus should oppose, but there can be no matter of doubt that he is opposed. The reasons why the Hindus are opposed to this fight for rights of the untouchables for their rights will not be difficult to understand if certain important features of the relationship that is now subsisting between the caste Hindus and the untouchables are borne in mind. The first and foremost consideration that must never be forgotten, is the sharp division between the touchables and the untouchables. Every village has two parts, the quarter of the touchables and the quarter of the untouchables. Geographically, the two are separate. There is always an appreciable distance between the two. At any rate, there is no contiguity or proximity between them. The untouchables have a distinct name for their quarters, such as Maharwada, Mangwada, Chamroti, Kaikhana, etc. De jure, for the purposes of revenue administration or postal communication, the quarters of the untouchables are included in this village, but de facto it is separate from the village. When the Hindu resident of a village speaks of the village, he means to include it only the caste Hindu residents and the locality occupied by them. Similarly, when the untouchable speaks of the village, he means to exclude from it the untouchables and the quarters they occupy. Thus, in every village, the touchables and untouchables form two separate groups. There is nothing common between them. They do not constitute a folk. This is the first thing which must be noted. The second thing to note with regard to this division of the village into two groups is that these groups are real corporations which no one included within them can escape. As has been well said, the American or European belongs to groups of various kinds, but he joins most of them. He, of course, is born into a family, but he does not stay in it his whole life unless he pleases. He may choose his own occupation, residence, wife, political party, and is responsible, generally speaking, for no one's acts but his own. He is an individual in a much fuller sense because all his relationships are settled by himself for himself. The touchables and untouchables are in no sense individuals because all or nearly all of their relationships are fixed when they are born in a certain group. Their occupation, dwelling, gods, politics are all determined for them by the group to which they belong. When the touchables and untouchables they meet not as man to man, individual to individual, but as members of groups or as nationals of two different groups. This fact has an important effect upon the mutual relationship between the touchables and untouchables in a village. The relationship resembles the relationship between different clans in primitive society. In primitive society, the member of the clan has a claim, but the stranger has no standing. He may be treated kindly as a guest, but he cannot demand justice at the hands of any clan but his own. The dealing of clan with clan is a matter of war and negotiation, not of law, and the clanless man is an outlaw. In fact, as well is in name, and lawlessness against the stranger is therefore lawful. The untouchable, not being a member of the group of touchables, is a stranger. He is not a kindred. He is an outlaw. He cannot claim justice nor any rights which the touchable is bound to respect. The third thing to note is that the relationship between the two, the touchables and the untouchables, has been fixed. It has become a matter of status. This status has unmistakably given the untouchables a position of inferiority vis-a-vis the touchables. This inferiority is embodied in a code of social conduct to which the untouchables must conform. What kind of conduct it is has already been stated. The untouchable is not willing to conform to that code. He is not prepared to render unto Caesar what is claimed by Caesar. The untouchable wants to have his relationship with the touchables by contract. The touchable wants the untouchable to live in accordance with the rules of status and not rise above it. Thus, the two halves of the village, the touchable and the untouchable, are now struggling for resettling what the touchable thinks is settled forever. The conflict is centered around one question: what is to be the basis of this relationship? Shall it be contract or shall it be status? That is the question which is agitating the Hindus. The Hindu does not look at the revolt of the untouchables as an attempt on the part of this latter for social and economic improvement of their people. He looks at it as an attempt directed against him, an attempt to equalize. That is why he is opposed. The end.